With another difficult marching season just around the corner, PUP leader Billy Hutchinson has said loyalists can be as good as Sinn Féin when it comes to street politics. Speaking to this programme, he again accused Republicans of cultural war, which he said must be taken on both at Stormont and on the streets. As Brian Rowan reports, it's almost 20 years since the former MLA emerged politically in the period of the ceasefires and peace negotiations.
The Combined Loyalist Military Command will universally cease all operational hostilities as from 12 midnight on Thursday, the 13th of October 1994.
We feel that our mandate is the silence of the guns. After having talked with the government, we are confident that the assurances we were given about the constitutional position of Northern Ireland are safe.
It was a different time and there was a different mood. The ceasefires had been announced, negotiations had begun, and loyalists were at the heart of things.
Let us firmly resolve, therefore, to respect our differing views of freedom, culture and aspiration.
On their journey, they found a place in the high politics at Stormont. But that was then, and this is now. The assembly seats have been lost, and once more the street has become a stage for protest and confrontation.
Sinn Féin lost the war for United Ireland, and what they're now doing is fighting the cultural war. We need to stop that. Now, they need to be taken on politically, on the street and in Parliament. Unfortunately, we're not in Parliament to do that, but we'll certainly take them on the street.
But when you talk about taking people on the street, that's very dangerous language,
well, it's not dangerous language.
Oh, of course it is.
No, it's not dangerous language, because we're talking here in terms of politics. And what the Shinners are very good at is playing street politics, and if they think they're good at it, we'll see us at it. We're just as good as them.
The street politics is, in my opinion, a viable option. It's a democratic right, and people, as long as they do it lawfully and peacefully, the PUP will absolutely support people and taking to the street and protesting about their grievances. Well, I think the time ahead does pose a significant challenge to all communities. Therefore, we have a very difficult job ahead of us. However, I do think that we can avoid the situation that I've heard being described by many, which is nothing short of Armageddon.
In the continuing fallout over identity, flags and marching, Sinn Féin have dismissed the charge of cultural war as a propaganda ploy, designed to avoid a proper discussion on these issues. But loyalists are adamant that they've got this right.
Let me be very clear. The only way to stop Sinn Féin doing what they're doing is to take them on at their own game, and that's what we will do.
But do you think this is not better sorted out in a room, calm heads, sensible conversations, putting all of that unfinished business and all of that sense of alienation on the table?
Well, that would be great if all things were equal, but the difficulty is that where it's around reconciliation, where it's around education, or where it's around anything else, including the cultural issues, it's all in Sinn Féin's terms. Now, we won't be dealing on Sinn Féin's terms.
Recently, the street protests intruded on sport, forcing an Irish League game between Crusaders and Cliftonville to be called off, and this in a part of the city where new relationships are being built. It's work that stretches across the communities, and those involved insist it must be protected.
We're not going to get rid of the legacy, we're not going to get rid of the hurt, we're not going to get rid of the pain, but we have to find a way to live with it, and by working together to try and create one community, which differs in political opinion, but let's not forget, we share this space every day, we live in it, we sleep in it, we work in it. Thankfully, those of us who are lucky enough to have work, we are trying to find work for other people, we're trying to train people up, but this is about building a community.
And I think it's important to acknowledge that the work we do as both communities isn't a threat to either community. You know, the work we do together is about promoting the community as one. It's not about trying to gain territory or lose territory or being threatening towards one another. It's about working together to achieve the best we possibly can for both communities in North Belfast.
The police are also concerned watching a street performance laced with dangers and watching young people play in a situation that for them will have consequences.
The street is not the place to develop, to discuss a political view. It's not the place to develop and discuss relationships between communities. Young men face enough challenges growing up in North and West Belfast. They have challenges about educational achievement, their likely employment, their sense of self-worth, how they develop and how they go forward. You're not giving those people, those young men, the leadership and the best chance if you encourage them out onto the street in a situation where disorder can occur.
There are undoubtedly huge concerns. You know, we haven't learned the lessons of the past about bringing people onto the streets. The whole idea of the political settlement here was about taking people off the streets and to tables of accountability, whether in Belfast City Council or indeed in the Assembly.
You have to acknowledge the stakes you're playing with. It is people's lives, it is people's livelihoods, it is their sense of moving forward in life and getting a more positive future. Massive stakes to be played with and to be protected.
So we have a huge responsibility here to take things out of the street that we're not jeopardising the future of our young people, and certainly we're not opening up a new conveyor belt where people are going through courts and find themselves in prison. That's the last thing that anybody wants to see.
But when you speak to some in the Loyalist community, there's not the same sense of that new day and new beginning that we can trace back to 1994. You hear about what's wrong, and it's not just a criticism of Sinn Féin, but of a disconnect between the people on the ground and the politicians on the hill.
We must learn to treat our working class communities with dignity and with respect, and give them the respect by coming and talking to them, hearing from them, hearing what their suggestions are, and allowing them to be active participants in this political project.
People have not been stimulated to vote. They've had no interest in politics. They thought, well, what's the point in voting? My vote doesn't count, it doesn't do anything. And I think we've seen recently what happens whenever you don't come out to vote, whenever you're not registered and whenever you don't come out and have your say.
But does this man really believe a political project can be rebuilt and re-energised on the streets, and that his argument about an attack on British culture will somehow make his party more relevant in the politics of today?
We need to politicise the Protestant working class. Otherwise, we're going to be out there in the political wilderness. I don't think this is about votes, this is about issues, and I think it's about how those issues are dealt with. And my view is that I will not remain a second-class citizen in my own land.
20 years ago, Loyalists weren't thinking about the political wilderness, but today they are, and for them it will be a long road back to the inside and to Stormont. Brian Rowan, UTV Live Tonight.